Well, it looks like Donald Trump is definitely a little bit upset here. As it's not just that painting in Colorado that's pissing him off, as now we have the Signal Gate controversy and a war of words between him and the Atlantic editor that has a lot of very interesting connections to some seedy, really bad, awful organizations and groups, and previous reporting that was a flat outright lie. All of this is happening as now Alex Jones has come out and has specifically talked about how this man tried to allegedly recruit him to be a part of the intel agencies. Yes, you heard that correctly. What Alex Jones is saying here is pretty bombshell, and I think it is worth noting and looking at with our full skepticism here, as this story now is becoming a major story that the corporate media loves to talk about. They love to talk about how this was a screw up, this was an F up, the Trump administration is not doing too good, as it's pretty clear here. Some independent media organizations are, not also reporting on this accurately as well. It's hard to get accurate reporting because we still don't know exactly what's really going on here. There's a section of people saying, yeah, they did it on purpose. And now we have the Trump administration not acting like it was done on purpose. What do you believe? Well, I think it's fair to examine all of the evidence here in front of us. As of course, you go to Google News, first thing pops up is all of these top stories saying specifically this Signal leak. How dare the Signal leak happen? As the Atlantic editor now is threatening to release more, quote, alleged war plans, as this administration is specifically denying that they were, quote, war plans, as Peak Headset has come out and saying, nope, these were not war plans. Tulsi Gabbard has come out officially and has said that there was no classified material that was sent in this thread. And a lot of people, including the press secretary of the United States, Caroline Leavitt, are saying there was no war plans that were discussed. She says, 3, the White House Counsel Office has provided a guidance on a number of different platforms of President Trump's top officials to communicate as safely and as effectively as possible. As the National Security Council stated, the White House is looking into how Goldberg's number was inadvertently added to the thread. Thanks to the strong and decisive leadership of President Trump and everyone in the group, the Houthi strikes were successful and effective. Terrorists were taken out. And that's what matters the most to President Trump here. And after story after story, we now have this allegation that they were not war plans. So he is saying they were war plans. Now he's threatening to release them, as NPR is reporting specifically now how there are hackers that are targeting Signal now. And many people believe that it is the way that people get a lot of information on their opponents. Now, personally, I just don't trust Signal. I haven't trusted Signal in a very long time. Ever since kind of Signal became mainstream, I'm like, that probably is hijacked. That thing that everyone's talking about, that everyone's saying it's secure, probably isn't secure here. And that was my thinking many years ago. And I had a bunch of buddies and a bunch of friends be like, no, this is the good way to... I'm like, I don't... You are online, expect eyeballs to be on your communications and everything that you're doing. That's how you have to treat today's day and age, where the intel agencies have a lot of honeypots, have a lot of advanced tech that allows them to see almost everything that everyone is doing. That's the reality of the situation. Even though now the feds are saying that they can't go after the encrypted devices of the Trump's assassin. Again, I struggle to believe that particular story as well. But the Atlantic still continues on with their story here, and this is creating a big media firestorm, as Donald Trump also came out and said criticism of Waltz here over this group chat is, quote, unfair here, citing by his aide and national security advisor, who he says will, quote, continue to do a, quote, good job. Now, the question now needs to be asked, who is this Jeffrey Goldberg guy? Who is this editor that was mistakenly added to the Signal chat? Is there something bigger going on here, as we found out that he actually served as a prison guard at the Kitzur prison in Israel during the First Intifada, where there are multiple reports of human rights violations and torture being committed against prisoners inside of that prison. As he even wrote in his own book, Prisoner, a Muslim, and a Jew Across the Middle East Divide, discussing the interactions that he had during the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that has unfolded in that particular region. There's a lot of accusations about that prison, specifically conducting very awful, inhumane activities against the people that were held captive there during the conflicts. But when we look at Jeffrey Goldberg, I think his reporting history matters here, as he previously lied about Saddam Hussein working with Al-Qaeda, and he was a part of the bigger effort by the intel agencies deceiving the American people and supporting the Iraq war. He also, according to a lot of people, fabricated the debunk suckers and losers story, specifically surrounding Donald Trump calling U.S. military service members suckers and losers, something that I don't think Donald Trump would ever say. But we have this clip here all the way back from September 2020, highlighting some of his, quote, intrepid reporting that a lot of people have been calling fake news for a long time. Before talking about that, we want to tell you about wearechange.shop. We're doing a lot of really cool, awesome, fun stuff at the store, as we have a $5 discount now with promo code WRCLOVE, where you get $5 off of your original purchase. And there are multiple offers, especially when you sign up to our email list, that now describes a bonus giveaway by engaging in our email. We also have a free limited edition fundraiser item that will be given out to you with every purchase that you guys make. So we're doing a lot of really fun stuff, and we got a lot of great products available to you. We got tea, we got 100 milligram spectrum CBD, we got creatine, we got ashwagandha, we got fish oil, we got magnesium glycinate, and then of course we got the products in bundles where you could just get specific things that you're looking for to upgrade it in your own personal life. And again, lots of the stuff here, the teas, organic, non-microplastic filled teas that make sure that you get your dose of tea in a good, organic, non-poisoned way, where your organs aren't filled with all of these horrible PFAs and chemicals that are inundated almost everywhere else. And again, we really went out of our way to have some of the best teas out there in the game. The lemon ginger one is really, really good, and offers, of course, the medicinal value of ginger and lemon. I love lemon and ginger. I hate just doing everything myself here. It's annoying. I try to get some good teas out there. It's hard to get. It's very hard to get, because you have to frickin' source the right stuff, make sure it's not filled with high fructose corn syrup. You have to make sure it's not in the tea bag. You have to make sure that it's not filled with glyphosate and all this other stuff. This is guaranteed to be some of the best stuff on the market. Go to wearechange.shop and get yourself some tea right now. Now, let's go back to this, quote, reporter before we play you the Alex Jones clip. Here are some of his greatest hits all the way back from September 2020.
At issue is a report by The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg based on accounts from anonymous sources. Goldberg writes of the morning Trump was scheduled to visit an American cemetery near Paris, where American Marines are buried. This is a piece of the article. In a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, quote, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Belleau Wood as, quote, suckers.
Yeah, okay. Do you really believe that? Do you believe Mr. Red, White, and Blue, Donald Trump, the guy who hugs an American flag, the guy who is very pro-authority, you think he would be actually saying that? And that's just one of the many stories that many people believe that this Atlantic editor, quote, just manipulated and made up. There was another one where Trump wanted to be the kind of a general that quote, he wanted, quote, the type of generals that funny mustache guy during the 1930s had in Germany. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I know Donald Trump, speaks off the cuff a lot. I know he could be, surprising to a lot of people, but come on. And it's also important to note that Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic praised General Mark Milley when Mark Milley said that he would tell Chinese generals if the United States were planning to launch an attack on them, which Jeffrey Goldberg said that he was, quote, the patriot, and how General Milley protected the Constitution from Donald Trump by trying to tip off the Chi Coms about a potential attack and going to the Chinese being like, hey, guys, I got your back. I'll tell you if you guys are going to get attacked here. That's some next level type of stuff here, as a lot of evidence points out that this guy is connected to some very high intelligence sources in the United States, as he was also a former Israeli Defense Forces. And when we look at the Atlantic, it's pretty much the newspaper of the intel agencies, of the CIA, of the Mossad, of a lot of the spy networks out there that are connected to some really horrible, awful people. And, the lady that's pretty much in charge, Lauren Powell, she also has a lot of connections to Ghislaine Maxwell, according to all the photos and videos that we saw, as the Atlantic wrote articles like this, talking about the great fake child trafficking epidemic. Yeah, it's not real. The article is still up, by the way. And this is just the type of stuff that tries to, of course, underplay so many important, significant stories, as there's also accusations from the corporate media, I think also the Atlantic specifically themselves, of victims, of journalists working and coming together and saying, hey, we have this story and all these powerful people. And then the editors coming in there and saying, no, you're not going to talk about this. You're not going to expose these powerful people because these powerful people are working with us. As Donald Trump previously attacked Laureen Powell, saying this in 2020, Steve Jobs would not be happy that his wife is wasting money. He left her on a failing radical left magazine that is run by a con man, Goldberg, and spews fake news and hate. Call her, write her, let her know how you feel. With Charlie Kirk saying the widow of Steve Jobs, Lauren Powell Jobs, donated at least $500,000 to Joe Biden's campaign this year. Do you know who owns a majority stake in the Atlantic? Lauren Powell Jobs. As Alex Jones had some interesting things to talk about his interactions with this Atlantic General editor that I think are worth listening to.
We want to know who you work for. And the reason I'm telling you the story is it ties into all this. And I'm like, what do you mean?
This is Alex talking about his meeting with Mr. Goldberg, who he said was acting very nervous, took him out to dinner, really wasn't trying to interview him, but this is what he said to him.
I just study politics in the world. I'm a popular show. He goes, well, the administration, others want to know if you're dangerous. They were trying to figure out who you work for. And we now know from this big FBI investigation that that's what they were trying to find out then. That's been open for 13 years. Ongoing until Trump discovered it. He didn't find out about it the last administration. They kept everything secret from him. And this is obviously part of that, because that was the questions and all. I knew what he was doing when it happened. I talked about it days after. I said, that guy's a Mossad or CIA, probably both. And now I know a lot more how this stuff works. The real spies are in it all. It's just the same group at the top. That's why you got CIA, Mossad, all of it with JFK. It's all just tentacles, heads of the Hydra.
Yep, and then when you look at the Church Commission hearings, you specifically see how the intel agencies infiltrated the corporate media and how they run the big corporate media outlets. Now, there's also now a shift now from the corporate media outlets, from the mainstream media to the independent media, by the way. And that's why we're seeing a lot of people being bought off, a lot of people saying the same thing all at the same time, all in unison. And there's probably also now a bunch of CIA agents that are now, quote, independent media. Again, we're seeing the true power structures kind of unwind here. But through the Church Commission hearings that we found out many, many decades ago, they just admitted, yeah, we had high-level editors placing stories, telling people what to write. We just wrote the articles for them. We told them to do that. What's their involvement now with this guy who has a knack of lying for the establishment, especially when it came to the Iraq war? That was some sinister manipulation techniques that were just absolutely awful. That led to tremendous human suffering. When we look at the Iraq War. It was sold to us by journalists like Goldberg. The human suffering, the catastrophes, the lives lost, the people that were maimed, the people that were injured, the people that were hurt so severely. They were hurt because the journalists were the biggest propagandists, the biggest cheerleaders, the biggest liars for these powerful forces out there that just wanted and demanded war, and they sold that war through individuals like Mr. Goldberg. Now, this guy's very interesting. I'll just leave it at that. Alex Jones has his own interpretations about who he thinks he is. But what do you think he is? And was there maybe a possibility that a lot of this wasn't an accident? What do you think is going on here? Let me know down in the comment section below. I always appreciate your constructive criticism. Get some tea and support this independent media network on wearechange.shop. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys watching and supporting this independent media broadcast. And this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more, all here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange.